Really quick, if you haven't seen my most recent episode on rope counters, well, make sure you check that episode out because, yeah, there is a brand new card that makes rope counters. Yeah, that's got to be the most ridiculous kind of counter we've ever seen. And speaking of ridiculous, well, on this episode, I'm going to be going through what has got to be the dumbest combo of all time, and that is saying a lot. Especially with some of the really weird and strange combos that I've come up with. Regardless, though, let's jump into it. So, this combo involves a brand new, exciting commander named, and I'm gonna butcher this, I'm sure, Raggadragga? Raggadragga? I think Raggadragga sounds better. Let's go with that. Goreguts Boss. There we go. We got there, everyone, okay? Maybe. Anyways, it's a 4/4 human boar that costs 2 red and a green that says each creature you control a mana ability gets +2/+2. And on top of that, whenever a creature you control a mana ability attacks, untap it. And whenever you cast a spell, if at least 7 mana was spent to cast it, untap target creature gets +7/+7 and gains trample until end of turn. So, I mean, in every which way, this commander is all about mana dorks. Your tiny little mana dorks might not be much, but again, with this commander in play, they all just get an anthem of +2/+2, just for having a mana ability. And of course, when those mana dorks attack, you get to untap them automatically. So yeah, I mean, that's just some additional free mana. Basically, you know, some kind of a vigilance, essentially, for your mana dorks. And I think the vast majority of Raggadragga, however you say that, decks are going to revolve around those first 2 pieces. Which is, yeah, awesome. And yeah, you can get some additional value, obviously, if you do happen to have, you know, a big creature or a big spell you're going to cast. You can pump a creature out of nowhere. Great, give it +7/+7 and trample. Very cool. While, of course, untapping it. Now, again, while I believe most players out there probably won't focus on that last part too much, yeah, that is completely what my combo is going to be built around, of course. And yes, I know, there are plenty of other easier ways to combo with this commander. I mean, again, just whenever a creature you control with a mana ability attacks, untap it, yeah, just swing with some mana dorks, and if you've got, what's the card called? Aggravated Assault. I always want to say Relentless Assault, but that's a sorcery that gives you an extra combat. Aggravated Assault is, you know, pay 3 red, yeah, untap your creatures, you get an extra combat. So yeah, just basically infinite combats, infinite mana if you've got more than 5 mana. You know what I mean. There are easier ways to combo with this commander, but I do not want to take the easy way. I want to take the dumb way, because that's what I want to do. Dumb, funny plays versus smart plays, apparently, all the time. Now, regardless of how you decide to build around this commander, if you are interested in this commander and you might want to pick up some of the cards from this episode, make sure you check out the link in the description below for a full list of those cards. Because, you know, when a new commander like this one is spoiled, sometimes cards that work well with it, including cards that might combo with it, might go up in price sooner rather than later. But now, with all that said, let's jump into it. So, yeah, I mean, this commander works incredibly well with mana dorks, and yeah, you're bound to see a lot of decks out there with this commander with, you know, cards like Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystic, and Birds of Paradise, some turn 1 mana dorks that each can tap for 1 color. Or, sorry, I meant 1 mana. Llanowar Elves and Elvish Mystic both tap for green. Birds of Paradise can tap for 1 mana of any color. Regardless, each of these are very weak, you know, being just 1/1s or a 0/1 even, but again, with this commander, with that Anthem, they're going to be 3/3s, and, you know, for Birds of Paradise, a 2/3. But again, for 1 mana each of those, that's pretty fantastic, especially, again, when you can attack with them, and also basically get pseudo-vigilance when they untap, so you can just tap them for mana later. And of course, yeah, you can take advantage of your mana dorks in this deck with something like Leyline of Abundance to make them even more powerful. Like other ley lines, if it's in your opening hand, you can begin the game with it on the battlefield. Whenever you tap a creature for mana, though, you add an additional green. So now your mana dorks are doubly as effective. I mean, you can have some really fast plays in this deck without this, you know, on turn 0, essentially. But with this on turn 0, have fun. Because, of course, on top of that, by paying 6 green, you can put a +1 counter on each creature you control. And yeah, with all the mana that you're going to be able to generate with this commander, awesome. You can make your mana dorks huge. But again, that's not the direction that I want to go with this commander, because it's not dumb enough. So when it comes to a dumb combo like this one, we need an equally dumb amount of mana. I'm talking about absurd amounts of mana, like mana that you can generate with Priest of Titania and Elvish Archdruid. Priest of Titania is a 1/1 elf druid that costs 1 and a green that can tap to add green to your mana pool for each elf on the battlefield, not just your own. So if your opponents have elves as well, awesome! Now Precitating can tap for an absurd amount, and yeah, we'll get to the exact amount that we need later on, but yeah, we need to get to a pretty absurd number. That being said, again, even with just this deck, yeah, a lot of Dorks out there are elves, so yeah, we can get to a pretty high number very quickly. So because of that, of course, Elvish Archdruid can help us out as well. A 2/2 Elf Druid that costs 1 green. It says other elves you control get +1/+1, and it can tap to add green for each elf you control. Now again, this one is just dependent on our elves, but again, we have plenty of them in this deck. And, you know, the more elves we get in play, the more mana we give this, and the quicker we can get even more elves in play to get to our mana amount that we need, which, again, is quite high, but we can do it. And actually, let me specify, when I say the mana amount that we need, I'm talking about from one creature. Just one creature we need to be able to produce this amount of mana. Yeah, we can produce it with all of our Dorks, but we need one creature to be able to tap for an absurd amount of mana, and we'll get to that amount here in a bit. Other options might be a creature like Gyre Sage, which is a 1/2 with Evolve, so whenever a creature enters battlefield with power toughness greater than this creature, we get a counter on it, and then also we can tap to add green for each counter on Gyre Sage. So, to get to the amount of mana that we need, we probably would also need other ways to get counters on Gyre Sage, but it is definitely doable. And speaking of counters, Marwyn the Nurturer is a 1/1 elf druid that has whenever another elf enters battlefield under your control, put a +1 counter on Marwyn the Nurturer. And Marwyn can tap to add an amount of green equal to Marwyn's power. Like I said before, and like you've seen so far, we've got a ton of elves. A ton of elves. So yeah, we get more and more counters on Marwyn, but unlike Gyre Sage, it's not specific to, you know, generating mana based on counters, it's based on power. So of course, if we've got other ways to pump this, like you know, with our commander, that can definitely be very impactful. With that Anthem, that's an extra +2/+2, which is an extra +2 mana, and if we happen to cast any spell that you know has a converted mana cost of 7 or greater, we can pump Marwyn by 7 and untap her. So yeah, we can very easily get to that amount if we need to. Or should I say get to the amount in that way? You know what I mean! Anyways, Viridian Joiner is somewhat similar, a 1/2 elf druid that has tap an amount of green to your mana pool equal to Viridian Joiner's power. So basically the exact same thing as Marwyn, but without that first, you know, +1/+1 counter clause. Regardless, we can definitely still get there with Viridian Joiner. And with the right creatures in this deck, we can also get there with Elena Keswick Trapper, a 4/3 human scout with first strike that has tap and amount of red equal to the greatest power among creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn. And speaking of caring about greatest power, well, so Valahar of the Wilds is a 2/3 elf scout that says whenever a creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power, and we can pay a green and tap and add X mana any combination of colors where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So, like Elena, this is limited to another creature's power, but yeah, if we include some massive creatures in this deck, which is definitely doable, because again, with all the amount of mana that we can generate, yeah, we can easily have either of these at the amount of mana that we need. Or we might utilize Accomplished Alchemist in a different way, a 2/5 elf druid that has tap at 1 mana of any color, and tap at X mana of any one color, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. So, if we've got the ability to gain a good amount of life, great, we can utilize this to tap for an absurd amount of mana. Next up, how about Leafkin Avenger, a 4/3 elemental druid that has tap at green for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Now, this is where our commander's Anthem can really come into play. Obviously, it's not going to, you know, meet that requirement if we just have a bunch of 1/1s that become 3/3s, but, you know, if you've got some creatures out there that have 2 power at least, then with our commander's pump, they're going to become, you know, 4 power creatures to meet this requirement to help us tap for a lot of mana. Or, you know, you can just have essentially Gaia's Cradle on a creature with Circle of Dreams Druid, which can tap to add green for each creature we control. And obviously, with this kind of deck, we can flood the board very quickly with creatures and easily get to our number. And speaking of getting to that number, well, Karametra's Acolyte can get to that and then some. A 1/4 human druid that can tap the amount of green to our mana pool equal to our devotion to green. So if you've got Circle of Dreams Druid in play, thank you for the extra 3 mana. Thank you very much. But now it's time for us to get to the other piece of this combo and to the amount of mana that I keep referencing that we need. And that card would be the incredibly popular commander staple, just kidding, Suncrusher. And this creature costs 9 mana, which meets that requirement for our commander. Again, remember from the beginning, whenever you cast a spell, if at least 7 mana was spent to cast it, untapped target creature gets +7/+7 gains trample until end of turn. Remember that part? Yeah. Regardless, back to Suncrusher. It's a 3/3, but it has Sunburst. Whoa, look out, Sunburst, that mechanic comes into play with a +1 counter on it for each color of mana used to pay its cost. Now, we can pay 4 and tap to remove a +1 counter from it to destroy target creature, but we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be paying 2 to remove a counter from it to bounce it back to its owner's hand. So the amount of mana that we need to pull up this combo, which seems like a ton, and yes it is, but it is very doable with a lot of the Dorks I already talked about, is 11. And actually, I'll mention some other ways that can make it a lot easier here in a bit too. But regardless, once we get to that 11 mana with one of those mana dorks, we can just keep casting Suncrusher over and over again. Because, again, for the most part, our creatures are tapping for green, right? So we, tap for 11 green. Awesome! We then use 9 of that mana to cast Suncrusher. Because we use green mana to cast it, we get a counter on Suncrusher. Then we can pay 2 with that remaining mana, and then, remove that counter from Suncrusher and return it back to its owner's hand. And yeah, I probably should have mentioned again, when we do cast it, obviously, we do get to untap target creature and give it +7/+7 until end of turn and trample. So we obviously will do that with the creature that is tapping for 11 mana. So we can obviously do that an infinite number of times, or as many times as we want, essentially, and make our creature infinitely large with infinite power, infinite toughness, and infinite, trample. Just trample, regular. Anyways. Now, obviously, if it's one of those creatures like, Viridian Joiner or Marwyn, the amount of mana that we're going to be able to add increases every single time, because if we pump one of them +7/+7, the amount of mana that they add is based on their power. And yeah, actually, I probably should say the magic number with Suncrusher is actually 12 is what we really want with it, because when we do that, we get infinite mana. And infinite +7/+7 to all of our creatures, infinite untaps of all of our creatures, infinite, again, trample to all of our creatures. Everything is infinite. Now, is it the smartest idea to build an entire deck around Suncrusher? Probably not, but is it dumb and funny? Absolutely. That being said, there is one other creature that I do want to highlight that can work in a somewhat similar way. Well, okay, at least for a few of the examples I brought up. And that would be Zodiac Dragon, that commander staple. Now, really quick, while Suncrusher is, 24 cents and probably sees the exact same amount of play as Zodiac Dragon is a very old card, and it's $226. That being said, if you are set up properly and with a creature that can generate red mana, well, yeah, you can go in for this too. It's an 8/8 dragon that costs 7 red, and it says when it's put in your graveyard from the battlefield, you may return it to your hand. So obviously you need a free sacrifice outlet, or a sacrifice outlet that you can pay for and repeat, and if you've got mana for that. But regardless, Goblin Bombardment. Let's just use that as an example to make this work. It has sacrifice a creature. Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to any target. So essentially, as long as you've got a mana dork that can tap for 9 red mana, you just cast Zodiac Dragon. You untap your mana dork. It's +7/+7 and trample until end of turn. You sacrifice the Zodiac Dragon with Goblin Bombardment to ping a player in the face. Zodiac Dragon goes back in your hand, and then you do it again, and again, and again, and again, until all players are burninated to the ground. And if you really want their creatures and planeswalkers, whatever, yeah, ping them in the face, okay? But again, if you really want to pull this off, have fun dropping $226 on a Zodiac Dragon. And let me know how it went. Now, obviously, like I said before, there are much easier ways to combo with this commander. Again, I mentioned Aggravated Assault, but even, yeah, Temur Sabertooth is a way to pretty easily combo with this commander. It is a 4/3 cat that has 1 and a green. You may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Temur Sabertooth gains indestructible until end of turn. So this then can be paired with any creature that costs, 7 or more, essentially, like Meteor Golem. Meteor Golem's a 3/3 golem, and when it enters the battlefield, destroy target non-land permanent opponent controls. So again, if you've got 9 mana from any of those mana dorks that we talked about earlier, awesome. Tap it for 9 mana. Play your Meteor Golem, untap it, give it +7/+7, and, trample. Cool. Meteor Golem destroys target non-land permanent opponent controls. Then you pay the 1 and a green to bounce back that, Meteor Golem back to your hand. Then you do it again, and again, and again. Essentially make that creature infinitely large with trample and untap it infinite amount of times and destroy all of your opponent's non-land permanents. And again, if you've got 10 mana, you have infinite mana as well. Or, there's an easier way to do this still with Temur Sabertooth and Great Oak Guardian, or essentially, any creature that has an ETB that untaps something. So, yeah, there are ways to do it that are easier than, Suncrusher, but Suncrusher's hilarious. So, I wanted Suncrusher to finally have the time to shine in the sun and crush it. Okay, that was bad. I need another cup of coffee. Anyways. And of course, obviously, a way to make it a lot easier to get to, that number that you need to get to. Again, Suncrushers is basically, 11 or 12, if you really want that infinite mana, is going to be with, mana doublers or a mana tripler. Mana Reflection says if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces twice as much of that mana instead. And Exclamation is a mana tripler, I think the only one. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. So yeah, these cards are each incredibly ridiculous. I believe both are pretty expensive. I know Exclamation is very expensive. And yeah, obviously it can help you, skip a little bit to try to get to your magical number much quicker. Regardless, at the end of the day, is this one of the dumbest combos of all time? I mean, it involves Suncrusher, so probably. And also Zodiac Dragon, potentially, which is a $226 card that doesn't see any play anywhere else because it's just pretty awful. But in this, weird combination, it can work. But yeah, I think a lot of players out there are going to build around this commander, focusing on, just a bunch of mana dorks, versus, focusing on mana dorks specifically that can generate, or should I say, have the potential to generate, 11 plus mana and, specifically recasting Suncrusher again and again and again, because it's just funny. Regardless, if you are interested in building around this commander, make sure you check out that link in the description below. And of course, stay tuned to this channel for even more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming up. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So the comments below, let me know your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.